Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Your Business podcast. And I'm very excited today to be chatting with Ashlee Livingstone, who is a transformational coach and breathwork facilitator who helps high achieving women stop living in overdrive and start feeling deeply connected to themselves again. With a background in leadership development and wellness, Ashlee blends strategy with soul, guiding her clients out of burnout and into balance, clarity, and calm. Her mission is clear to help women remember who they are, trust themselves fully, and create lives that feel as good on the inside as they look on the outside. I love this. Welcome so much, Ashlee.
Thanks, Amy. Every time I hear that, I'm like, oh, dang, that's good.
That's so good and such a need. And especially I feel like in the entrepreneurial world because all of our things come to the surface when you become
Yep.
an entrepreneur, I feel like as well. And high achieving women, right? Like even corporate, like climbing up the ladder as well, too, right? So
Yeah, it's so funny. I always thought my first coach used to say to me, having kids is like personal development on steroids. And then I was like, I actually think that it's entrepreneurship.
absolutely.
Entrepreneurship is personal growth on steroids. You will find out very quickly what is holding you back, what beliefs you've got running in the background as soon as you start working for yourself.
Absolutely. It's like you had an idea to start a business, and little did you know you were on this personal growth journey at the same time, too.
Yeah. Yeah. Little did you know that the 4-year-old version of you has some unfinished business she'd like to talk about.
Her voice is coming to the surface now.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Absolutely. So, for our listeners, why don't you share a little bit, like, how did you kind of get started in having a business?
Yeah. So I'll go like way back, but also keep it a little tight. So I used to actually be a professional event manager and fundraising specialist. I worked for a hospital foundation, and it was an intense world. But I thrived in it. I did all the right things. I made all the right people happy. I knew my role. I stayed in my lane. All of these things that I was told over and over. And eventually I just started to realize like I'm faking every single day. Every single day I am going to work. I was pep talking myself in the parking garage. I would sit there and convince myself to get out of the car, remind myself of like how much I needed the money and my life was, relied on this, and you have a good vacation and you've got benefits and you can do another day. You just have to do another day.
Yeah.
And I would do that almost every day. And when I got pregnant, so I also was going through a long fertility journey at the time. And I got pregnant and had a high risk pregnancy. And my boss at the time, every time I left to go to my high risk doctor's appointment, she would call me and essentially like check in, like, where are you? Even though she knew where I was,
Yeah.
and assign work that was due like the next day, or like she'd call an early morning meeting or just fill me in on a meeting that I was now missing that she just had called. And it was creating like so much added stress to the stress of
Yes.
like keeping my baby healthy inside of me.
Yeah.
So my doctor told me I couldn't go back to work. And so it actually wasn't even me. It was a gift, right? Like sometimes I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know how to manifest. And then I realized the
You,
world just did it for me.
yeah.
So I went to that doctor's appointment and then I never went back to work. And I didn't realize how sucked into this like cycle of this is just how it is. Like all of these things, like I have to make them happy. I have to work. I
Yeah.
have to have a pension. I have to have benefits.
Yeah.
And and then I was like, I did all of this fertility treatment. I did all of these doctor's appointments to spend time and get to raise this baby. And the first thing that came to my mind is like, how do I not go back to work?
Yes.
And so I took my maternity leave to figure out how not to go back to work.
I
And
did this. I did
yeah,
the
did
same.
you do
So
the
I
same
feel.
thing? Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we create these lives, right? It's like, oh, I want to have a baby. I want to have a baby. I want to be a
Yeah.
mom. I want to do these things. And then yet I was so misaligned with the job I was doing. I was
Yeah,
so misaligned in the culture that I had allowed myself to become a part of. And that was my wake up call of what are you doing? Like, you're
yeah.
not going to walk your kid to school. You're not going to pick your kid up from school. You're not going to be at the field trips. You're not going to be able to watch them compete in sports. You're not going to be able to do all of these things because you're allowing yourself to be sucked into this world of I should and I have to.
Absolutely, and I've always heard it referred to as, like, the corporate handcuffs because
Yes.
they have all the things of, like, the pension, the benefits, all the
Hmm.
you little perks that come with it, and you're like,
Yeah.
"Well, how could I give all of that up?" But then really, like, you're giving everything else up
Yeah.
to
Everything I
into that.
actually wanted.
Yes.
So that was my like big pause, right? Even though being home with a baby is not a pause, but
No,
it was. It
but
was it was the
yes.
distance I needed. And then I had a couple of people say, if you start your own event management business, like we will hire you. So people trusted me. I
Yeah.
had that expertise. And so I actually started my first business doing fundraising events for a lot of different local charities, different corporate partners who wanted to do events to give back to charity. So it was really amazing. And I loved it until I didn't,
Yeah.
right? Until I was just like, oh, this doesn't fit anymore. I had been really, really talented at hiding myself. I always said that if no one knew I was there, I had done a really good job.
So you were hiding totally
Yeah.
your voice, your presence,
Yeah.
everything, right? Yeah.
But I kind of thought that was my job, right? Nobody wants to
Yeah.
see the event planner. You just want to know that it's all happening and
And
you're
it's all
taken
taken
care
care of.
of and
Yep.
somebody's like pulling the strings. I always said I'm like Oz, right?
Yeah.
I was the man behind the curtain making everything happen, but never getting any of the accolades, the recognition, the presence
Yeah.
for it. I was like the best kept secret. So then as I started working with my first coach, who I had just hired 2 weeks before COVID hit, and then COVID hit, and as an
Yep.
event planner, I was like, what did I just do?"
Yep.
Again, the universe giving me a really important pause, right? I was
Yep.
doing something I didn't necessarily feel aligned to anymore, and the world gave me a pause. So I got to go down this journey of personal development that I didn't even know I needed, but it was the best decision I ever made for my relationships, my relationship with myself, my business.
Yes.
And then I got hooked, as we do.
Yes. Yes.
I
You
was
go
like,
down
"Oh,
that rabbit
I could
hole, and
help
then the next
people."
thing, then the next thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's how I discovered breath work and hypnotherapy and all of these amazing things where I actually started listening to myself. And it was kind of funny because I'm like, I wish people would listen to me, but I'm not even listening to myself. How backwards is that?
Yes.
So once I did my work, and I'm always still doing it, it's like, I want to do this for other people. I want to help other people hear their voices. I want to help other people ditch that belief that has been hanging around since they were 4, right? And see how free they can be.
That's amazing. So, had you heard of breathwork before? Had you or did you just, like, jump in and try an experience? Like, how did that kinda come to life?
Yeah. So I love to say that I'm a very resistant student. I'm like, when people are like, I have a love for learning, I'm like, I don't. I
Yeah.
love to be comfortable and safe. So my coach at the time, we were in a kind of like a mastermind container, and
Yeah.
she brought in a guest facilitator. She's like, by the way, everyone, you're doing breath work today. It's like, I don't want to do breath work. She's like, that's fine that you don't want to do it. This is what's here today. And I think you're going to regret it if you don't try it. So I tried it and mind blown. It was, I couldn't unlearn it.
Yep.
That was the beautiful thing about it is like, then I had experienced it. My body felt alive.
Yeah.
I heard my voice. I very clearly identified what my fear was. And like even in just that moment, and yeah, I dug in. I was like, okay, that was like 30 minutes of breath work. What else can I do with that?
Yes. How
Yeah.
else can that, like, even for yourself and then now doing it for clients and stuff
Hmm.
as well too?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did that and then kept practicing on my own, got into hypnotherapy as well, like receiving it,
Yeah.
which was just such a beautiful gift. And then I kept seeing again, like all of these signs of like, become a breathwork facilitator, become a breathwork facilitator, become a breathwork facilitator. I'm like, I think I should become a breathwork. It's
These
amazing
signs
how
are
like,
dropping
yeah,
everywhere and
I'm
telling
like,
you, like, yeah.
and somebody else had said, like, don't you facilitate breathwork? And I was like, I don't. And they're like, really? I was like, yeah, no. And they're like, you should. And I'm like, okay. So it was again like a lot of hints and clues that that could be something really supportive in
Yes.
addition to what I was doing. And so I dove in and took a 6-month program and trauma informed lens to it. So that's, yeah. And then I just kept going and I love every second of it.
That's amazing, and you're so good at it. So, like, it just so happened so I've experienced a couple times breath work with you, plus I'm part of your membership, which I know we
Hmm.
can get into as well. Um, but yeah, I experienced, I had shared like a little mini episode that's going to be coming out shortly with High Vibe Women. You were one of the speakers there, and just the power of, I think it was what, like a 5-minute breath work session that
Yeah.
you did?
Yeah. It was like 10 minutes of
Yeah,
actual breathing.
breathing within a group of like 150 women, and within there I was able to like tap into all this shame and guilt that was like lineage that had been like passed down from my grandma to my mom to me now as an entrepreneur, and had this like big huge realization of like, it stops with me, like I'm not passing this on to my kids, and I can step into like confidence and having a business. And I was like, this is amazing what you're able to do in such a
Yeah.
short period of time. Like it's
And in a group too,
yes.
which is so cool. And I think that's the piece. I joke around. I'm like, I'm woo adjacent, right?
Yeah.
I'm not like I'm not in the deep end of it, but at the same time, it's like, how can you not acknowledge the power of like being in a room of 150 women, each having their own individual experience, but adding to that collective energy and
Yes.
feeling safe enough to go there yourself.
Yes.
Like that's so cool.
It was so cool and so powerful. And then even today, so it worked out that I had like a session before we were recording this podcast. And even like I couldn't believe how like quickly it went by. Like I
Hmm.
know we had, and even being able to like work through, because I have my own limiting beliefs around like public speaking and stuff like that. So just even like to be able to dive in so deeply and physiologically, like being able to like release a lot of that and have more tools too, like it's just amazing because it's like one thing that you're getting, but really it's like so many other layers breaking down to help support too.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I really loved about breath work is it is a combination of science meets woo.
Yes.
There's so much that is going on. Like we know now, and there's tons of resources out there, but one of my favorite books is The Body Keeps the Score.
Yeah, I haven't read it, but I've heard amazing things about it. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's so true. Like every experience we have is stored in our body. It's almost like it becomes like it's cellular. We hold
Yes.
on to it, and that's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's just it is
What?
fact.
Yeah.
And so that is living within us. So when you hear a sound and you're just like, whoa, that brought me back to someplace else. Like we can't deny that that happens
Yes.
because experiences get stored in our body until we choose to move through and release them,
Yeah.
right? So if we haven't been taught the skills, and most of us haven't, especially as like a young kid, you get made fun of on the schoolyard. You don't really know what to do with that. What does moving through that even mean?
Right.
You just you just pack it in there, but you feel that heat maybe. You might feel that turn in your stomach, the flush on your face that comes with
Yeah.
being embarrassed. And then your body is like, how do we avoid being embarrassed at all costs? Being embarrassed does not feel safe. How do
Yeah.
we avoid this? Well, we might avoid it by becoming the class clown so that we
Yeah.
embarrass ourselves and we're just like, I'll get ahead of it.
Yeah.
Or we decide we're going to disappear. I'll make myself as small and as quiet as possible so that nobody can make fun of me because they won't see me.
Yeah.
And through things like breath work, somatic healing, hypnotherapy, all of these different modalities, you can tap into that and almost like give that version of you what she needed then.
Yes.
Does
Well,
that
and
land?
it does, and I'm even thinking too, like, you're saying, as a ki I'm thinking because I have, a 7-year-old, and I'm thinking of her,
Mhm.
like, on the schoolyard and having those type of experiences and not necessarily knowing how to handle them, but every time that experience happens, she's probably, like, compacting it down, and then it's just reaffirmation for her of, like, how can I not, like you said, recreate this again, right?
Mhm.
So it's so powerful because we can recognize that as adults, but I guess even, like, for our listeners with children, I know I'd asked you before around, like, breath work, but, like, how does that even work for, like, kids and stuff like that too? Is there, like, an age where it's a good idea, not a good idea? Because they haven't really recognized a lot of that subconscious work yet, right?
Yeah, and their subconscious is still forming.
Yeah.
And, I've heard different, it's like your first 7 years, but then I've also heard actually up to like 14.
Oh.
So there's like, don't give up hope after
Yeah.
there. Because also what is happening is our subconscious, our brain is looking for validation for beliefs we already have.
Yeah.
So if you believe, oh, if I do this, I'm going to get embarrassed, it's going to find proof along the way. It's going to like create almost a case, right? If you're a
Yep.
lawyer, it's going to create a case of like, here's all the instances of when I did get embarrassed.
Yep.
I let my guard down and I got embarrassed. See what happens when you do that? And so for kids, one of the things, and my son is almost 13, and turns out I'm probably the most embarrassing thing that he has to deal with,
Right, of course.
which he
That
tells me.
happens that
Yep,
age, right?
yep.
Yep.
So I introduced breath work in a couple of ways. One, just to help him feel his feelings. Like,
Yeah.
first of all, like we've been taught not to. So I will often say, anger has a place here, feelings have a place here, but like we
Yeah.
don't necessarily have to attach it to a behavior.
Right.
So feelings are totally valid.
Yeah.
Let's experience that. Let's feel what it feels like in our body. We don't always have to attach the like punching of the wall or the
Right.
slamming of the door. That isn't the same as a feeling. That
Right.
is a behavior.
Yeah.
So giving him tools to just like take a deep breath, come back into his body, be like, yes, you're angry. Okay, what do you want to do with that?
Yeah.
Right? So that he's not just getting angry and like slamming a door or
Right.
whatever. Same with sadness, right? It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel embarrassed. And I will use breath work more as a in the moment, take the deep breath, calm yourself down, get back into your body.
Yeah.
Because sometimes our big feelings can take us out of our body and we're
Yes.
just living in our mind and all of these stories we're making up. So come back into your body. And then I will use it to as a tool to help him get his body ready for bed.
Yeah.
I use bedtime breath work is one of the most popular sessions in my
Yes.
membership. A lot of people will be like, I brought my kid. Thank you for putting my kid to bed.
I know.
I'm like, you're welcome. But that even just like learning how to slow your breath down so that your body can slow down
Yes. That's
is
such
really, really powerful.
it is because I think we're not conscious of that, right? And you're just having these breathing patterns and you're like you said, like when you're
Hmm.
stressed or panicking, you're breath is like elevated, right? So giving
Yeah.
yourself that tool to like just pause. I love that. You've been sharing that a lot lately about just
Mhm.
pausing and then taking a breath.
Yeah. And it's helpful too. Like we can use it as adults. You're in traffic.
Yeah.
Take a breath. Take a breath before you honk your horn.
Yeah.
Or you're running late. It happens, right? But we get ourselves so riled about it.
Yes.
So take a breath. You're going for a job interview, or you're chatting to a new client, or you're on a sales call, you're doing a presentation, whatever that is. Give yourself permission to move at a slower pace. It doesn't mean you're slow. It means that like you are moving slower. You're
Yes.
being more intentional, right? We fall into this trap of like everything is fast.
Yes.
And our kids do the same thing. They're about to write an exam and their hearts are beating and they're feeling nervous. Take a breath,
Yeah.
right? They might be in sports and they're competing and it's a big game and
Yeah.
we can maybe have some perspective on it. They can't. Take a breath.
Yeah.
Right? All of these things that they go through, we can just remind them to slow down. It doesn't have to be so fast.
Yes, I think that's such a beautiful reminder in life for family and even business, like how you're sharing. Like, so often we are so reactive. So just take a breath and then you can take it from like a more centered, grounded place than
Hmm.
from that type of kind of chaotic energy.
Yeah. As soon as if you start to build in taking a breath before you even open your mouth, I bet you any money your response changes.
That's such a good. I'm even thinking now with like my spouse at times. If I would like bite my tongue maybe and take a breath, I'm sure it would limit some of like the little sly comments we make at each
Hmm.
other at times, right?
Yeah. Oh,
So
even my wife said to me yesterday, she's like, dang, you're hard on me. And I'm like, what? Oh, she's like, you're just so quick. And I was like, okay, thank you for
Yeah.
like calling that out because I'm like, I often think I'm a very um spacious, like with response, but
Yeah.
you still get into these like very comfortable, safe relationships where you don't practice that.
Yes.
It's like, okay, thank you. I'm going to also remind myself, just as I remind myself when I'm with my clients or when I am dealing with other parents or things like that,
Yeah.
the breath is already built in for me. But now I'm like, okay, now I have to build it in with my wife and son.
Build it
Noted.
for her too. Build it for him too,
Yeah, yeah,
right? So
yeah.
yeah.
Like I gotta build it. I have to build it in there too. So it
Yes.
becomes automatic.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And again, it just helps with like that awareness and then being able to support even more. So
Yeah.
for our listeners, kind of what's maybe some a way someone can kind of like start to get started, I guess, if someone's feeling like burnout happens a lot is entrepreneurs or high achieving women. So what's maybe some kind of things that they can do to get started?
Yeah, I often recommend, I'm a big time management person as well. Um, Build in a morning routine
Okay.
or a lunch hour, like whatever it is for you. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs have the mindset of like, I don't have time.
We do. Yep.
Yep, right? Like everything is back to back.
Yep.
I would encourage you to try and carve out even 15 minutes for yourself before you start work, ideally even before you like wake your family up.
Yep.
But before you start work, throughout the day, just to ground yourself or move any energy. If you've had a rough client, you've had something
Yeah.
go on, it's like you need to literally shake it off, wipe it off, breathe it out
Yeah.
so that you can come back to yourself. I think burnout happens in part because we don't give ourselves that break and then we are carrying it around. And so it's physically exhausting to
Yep.
carry around yesterday morning's conversation,
Yes.
right? Or
Absolutely.
last week, the thing that happened, or
Yes.
whatever it is. We just are carrying around so much weight that it's exhausting us.
Yes. Absolutely. And so I'm part of your Mental Fit Club
Mhm.
membership, which is amazing because I know you offer live ones, but you also have like a library of resources too. So
Yeah.
I shared with you, when we did a breathwork session earlier, I had a bit of a challenging morning with some things not going as planned and expected. So I've even had thought, okay, great. I know I'm going to go into your library tonight at bedtime because I'm like, I know I need to release
Yeah.
like the day. And so this will be a great way to like go in, pick one that, I'm feeling called to help, like, release kind of what's happened from today and stuff like that too, so, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it is just that simple act of being intentional.
Yeah.
I will do 10 minutes of breath work every single day just because like my body actually craves it now. It's almost like you start drinking water
Yes.
and then all of a sudden you're like, why am I so thirsty all the time? That it's building up your tolerance, and then your body actually really craves that space. It craves the deep breath.
Yeah,
It craves it. And so for me, that is one of my tools for regulating myself on a daily basis, um, along with my movement, my
yeah,
nutrition. It's all part of it. So if you are feeling that burnout, if you can create little spaces for yourself to honestly breathe, journal, move, um, it's about creating space.
yeah,
And when we create space, we end up creating more capacity for ourselves.
absolutely. It's like we have this time now, or a task that maybe would have taken us an hour now feels less because it's not as, like, built up in our body of like, "Oh my gosh," the rush of it getting it
Yeah.
done too.
Yeah. And what I notice, and I've noticed in myself, is that when I don't create those breaks or when I don't regulate myself, my work actually is less than.
Yes.
It's not on point. I am making way more errors, or I duplicate something, or I forget a step,
Yeah.
and then I have to go back and do it. So, yes, I'm asking you to take a step away, but I am actually promising you it's going to improve the quality of your work and save you time.
Absolutely, and even the quality of your life,
Yes.
because we're holding so much of that. So I've shared, like in my physical body, I can feel like tingling or like those type, but like just
Mhm.
by doing some of the breath work and releasing that, I'm not feeling that heaviness or that anxiousness that's coming with some of the tasks or stuff that's happened in the day too.
Yeah. But do you even notice how you respond differently in your relationships?
Definitely. And I always say, like, my oldest, who's 7, she's like my biggest expander because she feels everything. And so it's given me so much patience now with her to
Mhm.
allow her to have her feelings and allow her to feel and like meeting her with where she's at kind of thing. So I think that it's definitely changed even the way like I parent and stuff like that as well too.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that's that piece that a lot of people don't necessarily understand the benefits. Like, yes, you're releasing your own stuff, if
Yes.
you will, pent up emotions, or, you're understanding and you're healing yourself. And when you do that, you actually create space in your body to hold space for others.
Yes.
Right? So you can be a little bit more patient. You can, navigate a tricky situation a little bit easier, or your mind is a little bit more clear so that you say, oh, this is outside of my my scope. I'm calling a friend, or
Yes.
I'm going to reach out to my coach, or I'm going to ask for help, instead of our stress response, which is dig in, do more, dig in, do
Yep.
more, dig in, do more. You actually can slow down and say, oh, I need to ask somebody. I'm starting to feel dysregulated. Who can I call?
Yes. Such a good, and it's even got me thinking, so I know one of the things that you talk about is boundaries. So why do you think that that can be so challenging sometimes as entrepreneurs and high achievers to like put those boundaries in place? Even the boundary of like creating 15 minutes at lunch to do that breath work.
Yeah, people already turned off the episode, so
Yeah.
like, I don't like that suggestion. Not for
Yeah,
me.
not happening. Nope.
Well, if you're still with us,
Yes.
I think that a big reason is that, well, first of all, as women, we've often been taught not to have boundaries,
Yes.
right? Like maybe with our physical bodies, maybe when it comes to like intimacy or
Yep.
like relationships, it's like that. But in every other aspect of our life, we're taught to people please and keep going until everybody's happy.
Yep.
So it's very confusing. And when you see the disappointment on someone's face as a young child, when you
Mhm.
hold a boundary or you say no, or you're like, I actually don't want to go to that party, and you feel the repercussions of it, your body is like, it's not safe to say no. It's
Yep.
not safe to disappoint someone because then you're out,
Yep.
right? They're going to be mad at you. And people being mad at us doesn't feel safe.
Yep.
It all comes down to what we feel safe. It all comes down to the beliefs that we have and our ability to live in alignment with them.
Yep.
I read something that essentially said, even though logically we might say, like, yes, I know I need boundaries, if you believe that you are going to make people mad and that doesn't feel safe to you, you won't be able to because you will always live in alignment with what you believe.
Yes. And that's so true because then you're breaking that boundary because it feels better to not disappoint that person than disappointing yourself and not
Yeah.
holding that boundary.
Or you think that other people are breaking your boundaries.
Oh,
So this
yes.
is like, I hear
That's a
this
good
often
point.
is, well, I might set a boundary with my kids, but they're not going to listen to it. Like,
Right.
let me give you a one-on-one here. You have
Yeah.
to hold the boundary. And that's when
Yes.
people are like, oh no, I don't want to do that. No, thank you. I'll pass.
Yeah.
Because they want people to respect our boundaries, but we don't want to
Mhm.
hold the boundary.
Right.
So that's the disconnect is
Yes.
I'll set the boundary, but I really am uncomfortable holding it because I'm uncomfortable with you being uncomfortable.
Yes.
So I get this a lot around like Christmas,
Yes.
um, Thanksgiving, all of these times when we as women are now also hosting a bunch of
Yes.
people at our house and we're cooking all the things. And
And
I'm like,
setting up all the things and planning all the things and
yeah. And like
yes.
then also your kids have sports on that weekend
Yes, all
and
the time.
you figured it out. Um, and instead of saying, yeah, no, I'm at capacity, somebody else can do it. Or, hey, coach, my kid's gonna miss that weekend because we have family coming over.
Yeah.
It's so uncomfortable for people. But again, like we have to start like flexing that muscle of setting, communicating, and then holding boundaries. And it creates so much more space for you.
Thank you. I'm even realizing with myself, I'm like, I overcommit with my kids all the time when we have stuff like that because you don't want to disappoint the team. You don't want to disappoint the family. So we're pinging everywhere. And
Mhm.
now, again, it's always interesting the stuff that comes up when I'm with you. So then, like, this was like learned behavior that I feel like I'm just repeating that cycle for my own children now. Of like, we're going to
Yeah.
go everywhere because we don't want grandma to be upset or we don't want Coach Bob to be upset, kind of thing. Right. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
But here's the thing, we are not responsible for other people's feelings.
we're not.
And that's part of what makes us feel so overwhelmed and burnt out is because we have taken on ownership of other people's feelings,
Yes.
right? We think that us showing up makes them happy. That's a lot of pressure for somebody else to be happy because we showed up.
Absolutely. That's a lot to hold. That's a
That's a
lot.
lot to hold. That isn't ours.
Yes,
I'm still trying to
absolutely.
work on like holding space for myself and being like, what does make me happy? When do
Yes.
I feel joy? Not trying to mind read what's going to make my mom happy.
Yes.
Well, that's not
Absolutely.
happening.
I think, and kids are so good at that, right? Doing like, I want this ice cream. This makes me feel good.
Yeah.
Like they're so good at those things and being unapologetic of like, this is what I want to
Hmm.
do. So yeah, I feel like we lose that along the way
We
as like,
do because we're told,
yeah,
right? Like even as a kid, like my son is like, I don't want to go to that. I'm like, okay, okay,
yeah.
yeah,
And it
great.
just being okay and not having to like dig into
You're
why.
like,
And yeah,
yeah. Or sometimes there are times where you're like, okay, you might not want to go to practice, I get that. It's early and you have made a commitment to a team.
Yeah.
So being able to have those conversations and still say, if you're choosing to not go to the practice, like, I'm okay with that, but you have to let your coach know.
Yeah.
And then I get to choose next time when the next season comes and he's like, yeah, I want to play, I want to play, I want to play. I'm like, my boundary is no, because
Yeah.
I'm not committing to that for you to not commit to that.
Exactly. Yeah, that's such a good
Does
point.
that, yeah,
Yeah,
like
it does. Yes.
we can still say, not everything is impulsive,
Yes.
right? We can have boundaries around even saying yes and no with intent,
Yes.
not just like automatic.
I love that. Um, so thank you for that as well. So
Mm.
do you find there's common themes like when you're doing hosting like these breathwork sessions, whether it's individual or in group, does there tend to be a lot of like similar blocks that come up for high achieving women?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's a
Yes.
whole list of them,
There's a
I'm
whole
sure.
list. No. Um, yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to people pleasing,
Yep.
right? This fear of disappointing people. And at the root of that is I'm not good enough.
Yep.
So we adopt people pleasing, perfectionism, um, fawning over people because we're really at the end of the day, if you really, really dial it back, it's this fear of not being good enough.
Yep.
And so we overcompensate, we overachieve, we push, we
Yep.
please, so that no one will ever know the truth, which is that we're not good enough.
Right.
And that in itself, that belief of not being good enough isn't true either,
Yep.
right? A lot of times I see value attaching itself to worthiness.
Mm-hmm.
So the value I bring to my family, the value I bring to my work, the monetary value,
Yep.
the physical value has been attached to our worth. And so we often think that if we're not producing,
Yep.
achieving, then we're not worthy. And if we're not worthy, then how dare we go after our desires,
Right.
right? So we're constantly seeking approval to validate our worth.
How exhausting.
It is, right?
Yes.
But I want people to know like you're not alone in that.
No.
Like it's so, so common. And
Yeah.
especially that feeling of not being good enough.
Mhm.
I often see a lot too is time.
Yeah.
Time right now is like a constant in my conversations with people is I don't have enough time or I'm not able to choose to spend my time the way I want to,
Yeah.
right?
Because
Which
of how they've created
this
their
life they've
yeah.
created of I got sucked in
Yeah.
and I think I'm just here now,
Yeah.
right? I don't have time to change it. I don't have time to do breath work. I don't have time for anything that belongs to me.
Yeah.
And when my kids move out, then I can. Or when I retire, then I will. Or when I get through this busy season, then, and I check back in after busy season, and girls are still busy.
Yeah.
They're still
Absolutely.
busy. It
Yep.
doesn't, it doesn't stop. And actually, quite a few of my clients right now are transitioning into retirement,
Okay.
and they know it's not going to stop. They've
Yeah.
kind of had that moment of, I've been going so fast for so long with no time
Yeah.
that I'm actually a little bit scared.
For sure. And almost the sense of like crashing, burnout happening at some point because
Yeah.
like you're going from like go, go, go to like retiring and like it's a complete lifestyle shift a lot of
Hmm.
times when someone retires too.
Yeah. And so their fear is they don't want to spend the first like 6 months to a year of their retirement in recovery.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
And so I call it like your wake up call, whenever it is
Yep.
that the universe is like, hey, know this thing that you've been asking for? Here you go. Here's your pause.
Yep.
it's like I actually now try and encourage people to like get ahead of it,
Yes.
right? Like you don't have to
Absolutely.
wait for the universe to be like, pause. Now you're forced to
Absolutely.
take ownership over where you're at and how you actually want to live.
Yes, that's such a beautiful reminder for people. And really, it's being proactive instead of reactive because we're always living in such a reactive state. So, I really like,
Hmm.
again, what you've shared today around creating that space, giving yourself that 15 minutes a day, being proactive in it, and using those tools so that you're not getting to a point where you're forced to have to pause.
Yeah. Because it
Yeah.
kind of sucks when that happens. It's
It,
not a break.
no, it doesn't. And then it almost compiles even more of all the things that are happening because you're forced to have to pause, and then you have these other stories that come up
Hmm.
from that as well too. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes. I don't know where the time's gone, but I thank you so much for being here. And I will make sure to include in the show notes, where everyone can find you. And I also know you have a promo as well for your mental fitness club. So,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Is there any kind of last parting words you'd like to share for our listeners?
Um, no, I think just thank you, first of all, for having me here. I always love having these conversations. And wherever you are on your journey, like it's not wrong.
Yes.
Like, and it doesn't have to be it. So just really kind of taking back the reins of control over your own life and choosing like, how do you want to live this beautiful life that you're trying to create?
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.